Hey everybody, it's Bruce and the dog on the floor, and today we're going to be talking about schemas. Now, most of the time we're going to load a schema up into an editor and kind of see what's happening that way. But sometimes we actually want to read a schema with code. And today we're going to use Ecto's reflection, the introspection API that allows us to programmatically see what's going on within a schema. We can see the fields and the types of fields and things like relationships, all by using the Reflection API. It's going to be a great informative episode, so let's get started. Okay, so normally this would be the time where I would basically walk you through some code in an editor, but we're not going to do that this time. I'd rather walk you through the code with introspection, or at least the relationships and the data types. So I'm going to basically start the project, which is called Tome, right here, with IESS mix. And so this is going to set up my Ecto repo, tome.repo, okay? And I'm also going to alias, there's a context called library. So library, and there's a schema in there called book, and then there's also a context called feedback, and then a context called rating. And now I need to import the Ecto.query, Ecto query, but I only want to bring in, so normally if I'm in IEX, I'll just use import Ecto query, but I kind of wanted to show you this syntax. So this is a key value set. So these are the options, and there's only in a list, but this list is a key value list of the function, which is, I want from, and I want the version with 2 arguments. So the first is a queryable, and the second is the options. So that'd be like the where clauses and things like that. So I can do something like this. If I want a book, I could say repo.1, and then I could say tome, I could say book for the queryable, limit 1 for the options. And so let's see. Expected more than 1. Okay, I see. And you see that this is supposed to be a from, so I need to fix that. So let's rewrite that, and let's say from. Okay, and I am going to get a rating in the same way. Just to see what we're dealing with from rating. Okay, so now we can take a look at what the major pieces are, what the major data pieces are for each individual schema. But what I want to show you is that I have additional options if I want to basically go spelunking from an API standpoint into these individual fields. So I want to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to get help for ecto.schema. And let's look at the okay, so if I look at the Ecto schema, this is going to show me a bunch of individual functions that are related to the reflection or introspection, right? And these are the functions right here that we can use, right? So for example, if we're looking for all of the fields, then I can look at the fields like this. So for example, I could say book.__schema, and I could pass fields into that function like that, right? And so now I can see the individual fields that I can work with, but since a book has other relationships, I know that, for example, a book has ratings, I'm not getting all of the information here. But what I can do is I can actually look for the individual associations also with this class right here. So for example, I could say, give me the schema for the associations, and you can see that there is a rating association. Let's see if I can pick off like a single one. Yeah, so this is information about the individual association, right? And so in this case, this is, so one book has many of this. So if this was a many-to-many association, you would see a cardinality of many, or if it was a one-to-many association as it is, you would see a cardinality of many. This is the field name that we're going to specify. These are the callbacks that are going to be required. There's the default ordering, and on and on and on. So this is all of the information that you would need to have in order to implement details related to, or access details related to the individual relationships. So we could actually do the same thing for the other schemas in the model, right? So for example, I could say there is a rating, and I want to get all the associations for the ratings. I can do that, and there's only one for book, so I could say, okay, show me the information about the book. So for example, I ought to see that this cardinality should be 1, right? So the ratings is going to default to the empty list. The field is going to be the related book. It's not going to do anything on cast. If I try to replace it, it's going to raise, right? Because you don't want the library underneath to be able to change this association, which should be baked in when it's first created in the first place. So these are some of the things that are available to me as I start to do some of the introspection. Next, let's look at some of the other details that I have within the data structure itself within Ecto. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit and see how I might get some type information. So if I have my book, I have my rating, and each one of these individual pieces, remember, this is the private holding area for the metadata that Ecto needs to process this particular type thing, right? So I have the meta, and then I could see what's in that, map.keys, and then you can see that there's some metadata stuff that we're probably not supposed to touch. But then there are some public elements that we have access to, and that is actually accessed through schema. So we could see this relationship data. Well, we could if it was preloaded, but we could have a better look at that through the association schema tag. But I can do the same thing for each of the individual fields. So for example, I could say rating dot schema dot fields, and I could also get the type of each individual one, like book ID, or how about status? Oh, no, I can get the type of the status field. There we go. So the type of there's no type for status apparently, but if I looked at stars, that's an integer. If I look at the type of inserted that's naive date time. And so what's interesting about this is now if I'm building some tooling, whether it's like an editor that supports individual, that's basically a field browser, or whether it's something like, I don't know, like a JSON parser or an XML parser or a generator, then I have access to all of the individual associations, all of the individual database backing fields, like what table is this based on, and also I have access to the fields and the types of the fields that I need to provide better interfaces so that I could actually build not just some rich code, but also some rich tooling for this particular framework. And that's really an excellent thing. From Bruce and the dog on the floor, this is Groxio Learning.